What is up, diehards? Wes Monell and Drew Lacuesta in the building for AWOL Sports. Hey, if you're up with us, thanks for hanging out. We're live on YouTube. If you catch this later, glad you're catching it before week 4. We got a lot to talk about here. We'll dive into 10 questions. I like to call it intervals. 10 questions that we have for each other. Drew's got 5 for me. I got 5 for him. We have no idea what they are. We did it for the first time last week. I had a blast. But first, I kind of just want to go over some miscellaneous things that I'm kind of checking out right now, being the football junkies that we are. So I'm looking at personnel groupings, Drew, and we'll go through like a handful of them real quick. 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers, the most common formation in the league. The teams that do it the least, under 40%. You want to try to guess one or two of them?
Do it the least.
Yeah, it's very common.
Colts?
No, they're over 40%. There's 4 teams under it.
Wow. Cleveland.
Yes, you got one of them. Let's see if you can get one more.
You said what? You said 4 teams?
Yeah, there's 4 teams. You got Cleveland, the only AFC team.
Ravens.
No.
Oh, okay then. Man, that's a tough one.
I know, man.
Carolina. No, Joe Brady runs a lot of threes. Well, the Rams.
No, they run a lot of 11.
Washington.
Nope.
I'm curious.
One more guess.
Let's go with the only AFC team. The Niners.
Yes, that would have been probably I probably would have got Cleveland and the Niners like you did, to be honest. Yeah, so it's under 40%.
Interesting.
The Browns, the Niners, the other two, the Packers, and the Eagles, all under 40% in 11 personnel. All right. Sliding over, 12 personnel. Why not? 12 personnel, dual tight ends. The only thing I'm really noticing, there's one team that runs it the most by far. Yeah, one team. Who do you think? 2 tight ends.
I know the Rams run it a good amount. I don't know about the top, though. You're asking for the top teams, right?
The top team, because it's pretty substantial.
I'll say the Rams or the Packers.
The Packers are second. Hold on.
Damn.
No, I'm looking at the wrong personnel. There's a ton of groupings here. Yeah. The Packers are third on this list. We'll give you 2 guesses. See if you can figure out who runs the most dual tight ends.
The Eagles have to. They have to be top 5.
Number 1, not even close.
Nice.
59%.
Wow.
Yeah. Second is actually Arizona, 30%. That's kind of surprising.
That is surprising.
And then, all right, that was kind of a dead giveaway. The Cardinals, they also run the second most 10 personnel, which is 4 wide receivers. Who runs the most 4 wide sets in the league through 3 weeks, man?
I have a feeling you're trick questioning me on this one. 4 receivers. Buffalo. Yeah?
How? Why?
I see a lot of empty, or I see a lot of times they go to either pistol or single, and then they just bring out the running back or the H back or the tight end and split them out wide. But that's crazy. I didn't think that was right, but it was just a guess as far as a trick question.
Yeah, I was pretty stunned. I pay attention. It was still surprising to me. Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, and then the latest breakout, Gabriel Wilson, huh?
Yeah, killed us.
Hmm. All right. What 2 teams run the most 3 tight end sets? 13 personnel.
Hmm. Cleveland?
No.
New England.
No, sir.
3 tight ends. Hmm. 3 tight ends.
Oh, by the way, I can't believe
Colts.
I just caught myself. I said Gabriel Wilson. It's Gabriel Davis, dude, the breakout player. I got to show him some respect.
I thought you did say Davis. I missed that one. I thought you did say Davis, to be honest.
Oh, maybe I did. I don't know. Uh, all right. There are 2 teams in the NFC that run.
No?
Who'd you say?
Ooh. My first guess was Cleveland, but that's AFC. And then I said New England. That's also AFC. Chicago?
Yes, second at 11%. Let's see. Jimmy Graham, Cole Kemet, Demetrius Harris, journeyman blocker. There's one that tops him, though, at 17%. NFC team. I'll give you one guess, though.
Seattle.
No, surprisingly. The Giants.
Damn. Whoa.
Evan Ingram, Caden Smith, Levine Toby.
Here's to that one. That's crazy.
Next one, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. Looking at this here. 5 teams run it in the double digits.
Okay. I know I said this a lot, but Cleveland's got to be one of them.
Finally, yes. Cleveland is second at 15.
Jesus. 2 backs, 2 tight ends.
So Cleveland second with Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, my guy. Who's first at 19%?
New Orleans?
Nope.
Arizona.
Two backs, 2 tight ends.
Chargers.
They run all day.
Colts.
Last guess, AFC.
Vegas.
Baltimore.
Oh, no. Oh, Baltimore. I was going to say the Patriots, so I'd have been way off anyways.
I mean, diehards can, but most others, they couldn't name many receivers on the Ravens, not name Hollywood, I guess.
That's his real name, actually, on his birth certificate. No, I was kidding.
His government name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ravens all about it. Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews, Nick Boyle, I think, touchdown last week.
Yeah.
All right, I actually just shifted over to some of the lines, the biggest lines of the weekend. Right before we hit our 10 questions right now. Baltimore 13-point favorites at Washington. The Rams 12.5 hosting the Giants. The biggest line.
Jeez.
Yeah, those are monster lines. They might cover, though. You think both of them cover?
12 and a half, that's a lot of points, man. Especially even if you're talking about one of the worst teams in the league. 12 and a half points is a lot. That's tough for me to swallow.
How about this one? Who do you think covers New England at Kansas City? Chiefs favored by 7.
Are you talking about which of those teams, either the Patriots or the Chiefs?
Yeah, in that game, Chiefs have a 7-point edge. Do they cover, or does New England cover?
Damn, because both of these coaches are actually top best against the spread too. I'm gonna go with, hey man, as far as the recipe to slow the Chiefs down, I'm gonna go with Bill Belichick on this one. I'll take the Patriots to cover.
Ooh, all right. So, hey, they can lose by 6, and that's covered.
Yeah, exactly.
You ready for the
That's
questions?
too many points. That's a lot of points for a very highly accurate, high percentage time of possession team too. So yeah, I'm pretty confident on that one.
Yeah, it is a lot of points. I think the Chiefs cover, though. I don't know. All righty, diehards. We're ready to dive in. Like I said, it's what I call intervals. We're doing our thing here. 10 questions. Drew's got 5 for me. I got 5 for him. We don't know what they are. We're going to have fun with this. Drew, hit me, man.
All right, man. I know it's early in the season, but there's definitely some teams that are really hurting right now. So, which of these teams, all of these teams with 0 wins so far in the NFL, which one of these 0 win teams earns their first win of the season this week? You got the Bengals 0-2-1 hosting the Jags. You got the Eagles also 0-2-1 hosting the Niners. Or they're at the Niners, actually. It's in San Francisco. You got the Giants 0-3 in LA versus the Rams. And you got kind of a easy giveaway here. You got two 0-3 teams going against each other, so someone's got to come out with the win. It's the Vikings at the Texans. Which one do you think gets their first win?
You know what? You might have made me change my question. I have a question for you along those lines, but maybe I'll still ask it. It's a twist, a little bit branched off of that. For this question here, I like it's a cop-out picking that Vikings-Texans game. I think the Texans are going to get their first win of the year. I really do. I also think the Bengals are. I like it, man. Joe Burrow, I love it. I'm not going to lie. I love it, and I think their defense is pretty gritty. They don't allow you to pass all over them. They can probably be had on the ground if you're committed to it, which I think Jacksonville is. Not going to lie. James Robinson's had a great start, good few weeks. I like Cincy in this spot. I like Houston as well. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, my answer was also Houston. Surprisingly, I know we were kind of down on them to start the season. I still think they'll struggle for the remainder, but I mean they had the lead on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had a comeback win. one of the best comeback quarterbacks to do it, Big Ben. But you could kind of see that they're catching along. You know, he showed great chemistry with Randall Cobb, his third option actually, and I think they'll be. I think that kind of boosted the locker room a little bit, even though they didn't get the win. It's pretty tough against Steel Curtain, so I think that I like the Texans in this one. I think they'll have a good game plan. I think that was more of a 1 week offensive show out by Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. I do like Justin Jefferson moving forward, almost just as much as I like Adam Thielen, to be honest. Even though he's a rookie, I just think turnover battle, the Vikes will lose it.
There's not much I trust in Minnesota this year. There's a reason both of us have them missing the
Yeah.
playoffs, kind of backsliding. So I hear you. I feel you. And I had that question a little bit lower on the list, but let's bring it up now since you kicked things off that way. Those two teams, Houston, Minnesota, they didn't just make the playoffs last season. They both won a playoff game. Like you stated, Minnesota at Houston this week. Now that I know you think Minnesota drops to 0-4, I'll shift my question a little bit. Do they still have a chance at a wild card spot?
I don't know. I think with Green Bay running away with it, and you still have Detroit and Chicago to deal with, those aren't pushover teams. We've seen Chicago win with so-so quarterback play, and in my opinion, I think they have the right quarterback starting now in Foles. I think he should have started the season. Obviously, I get what they're trying to do, trying to salvage that pick, that high pick in Mitchell Trubisky. Mostly probably a GM recommendation, and Nagy kind of going with it to kind of play to that liking. I think he wanted to start Foles in reality in week 1, but hey, sometimes you got to play a little politics there. So I think Chicago is actually a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they're 3-0, and now that I think that this offense is going to take off, that I think they're going to be a bigger threat than what we expected them to be since the beginning of the season. I mean, even though Detroit doesn't have that great of a record or that great of a showing, a lot of their games they lose in the last seconds, on the last drive. So they're getting there. I think they just need the whole component as a team to start playing together. More importantly, defensively, I think they have enough weapons offensively. So I think it's too deep of a hole for the Vikes if they do go 0-4, and I think they will at the Texans. That's too deep of a hole to me, especially with other strong teams emerging, or at least 500 in the NFC, probably come week 4. That's way too deep, even with that extra 7 seed.
A good point that I agree with. Earlier, I was texting a buddy, you know him as well, Matt, and he kind of disagreed with, he tuned in to our last show. He disagreed with me saying the NFC is stronger. I broke it down as to why I thought it was stronger. Each conference, in my opinion, has a minimum of 8 teams that'll be in the playoff hunt, in the hunt to make the top 7 seeds. However, when I was looking at it, of course, it's subjective. It's not objective. It's kind of what you think, what I think, etc. I had the AFC maxed out at 10 teams in the hunt, while I had the NFC maxed out at 12. And that maxed out is based on the bottom teams in certain divisions, such as Detroit and Minnesota, as we're talking about here, being competitive and turning things around. And then for this specific question, I dove into Minnesota. It's just hard, man. The NFC, I think, is a little bit better, top end and deeper. Minnesota, their 3 losses by 9, 17, and 1 to Green Bay, Indy, and Tennessee. On the flip side, Houston, they lost by 14, 17, and 7, but to Kansas City, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. So put it this way, 5 of those 6 combined losses came against a team that's made the playoffs in the last year or 2. If you scale it back to 3 years, all of those opponents these 2 teams lost to have made the playoffs. So they're not losing to nobodies. That said, I thought the Vikings were destined for disappointment, as did you. I had the Texans winning the division and making the postseason. So, no, I don't give Minnesota a chance if they drop to 0-4. I think it's a wrap for them this week. Even if they win, I still think it's a wrap for Minnesota. Houston, on the other hand, you think they have a shot at the playoffs, win or lose?
The only reason I would inch them in is because I do like Deshaun Watson as a talent, and I think they have a talented enough receiving core and two viable running backs. Even if David Johnson gets hurt, I think you and I both like Duke Johnson. I think he should have got more touches last year. I think they would have been more effective as a higher volume running team last year in protection of Deshaun Watson, but also to kind of relieve the pressure off of him as well. I think sometimes he can be erratic, and I think showing him that you could produce on the ground would help him think a little bit more with an open field instead of just narrow one read and go. So it's hard for me, especially we've seen Bill O'Brien win with any quarterback too, and I just don't know if this year's that year, especially with their division. The Titans are rolling. Who knows what Jacksonville's going to do? They look like they're going to be a tough out for the rest of the year too, starting early in every game. And there's just something about Deshaun Watson and these receivers. I'm kind of up and down on it. I would bank more on them not having consistent chemistry for the whole year. And then who knows if Will Fuller's going to make it? Who knows if Brandon Cooks is going to suffer another concussion and be out for 2 to maybe 4 weeks? Too many questions here. I'll bet on Deshaun Watson carrying a team maybe in the hunt until week 14, 15, but eventually not making the 7th.
Understandable. Next question, sir.
All right, next question. We got, besides the Chicago Bears, it goes without saying that the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Packers can thank the man behind center for having 0 losses. But besides the quarterback, what else do you believe deserves the spotlight for one of those teams? All undefeated: Bears, Seahawks, Chiefs, Bills, and Packers. A lot of quarterback highlights, a lot of quarterback talk for those teams, but maybe something different when we watch these films and we watch these playbacks, something that you've noticed on these teams that you think is another factor that's helping them be undefeated right now.
You know what, man? When it comes to a short period of time, I'm willing to go outside of the box, outside of the comfort zone, and kind of shine a spotlight on a position that people love because of fantasy football and because they see these guys the most, or, this position one of the most. For the duration of a season, I wouldn't go with this answer. For half of a year, I probably still wouldn't go with this. I'm going to show some love to the guys that need the love, and that's the wide receivers. I usually am kind of the guy that doesn't care about the perimeter, to be honest. I think you build inside out, but I had to show them love. See what Stephon Diggs is doing for that offense in Buffalo. Josh Allen is the MVP candidate now, and they got speed. We talked about Gabriel Davis. John Brown was a 1,000-yard receiver last year as well. They're doing their thing, man. I'm not saying it's not because of Josh Allen, the quarterback. Of course he's developing. But with that, you need these weapons around you to do something. And they're doing more than something, man. The Bills, dude, they scored 93 points in 3 games. I don't know off the top of my head when the last time they did that. Maybe they did that during a 3-game span last year because they were a playoff team. But off the top of our heads, that sounds like a lot for Buffalo football. 93 points in 3 games. That just sounds ridiculous. The Chiefs, they're also undefeated. Probably expected. However, how can you not show love to the targets there? A lot of quarterbacks wish they had that setup. I'm not even going to Andy Reid. We know he's amazing. We know he's a future Hall of Famer. But, dude, Sammy Watkins, he balled out the last 2 opening games, and you know, last week he had a better week. You know, you expect the inconsistencies from him, but you can afford that. Tyreek Hill's the wide receiver one. Denard Robinson, they re-signed him for a reason. They draft McCole Hardman, who they can play whenever they want. They don't really need him to play. It's just ridiculous. And, you know, that goes even further if you include tight end, Travis Kelce, who's basically a receiver. But that's the AFC side. And, you know, it trickles over to the Steelers too. We know the Steelers are Big Ben or bust. That's who they are offensively. It's who they wanted to be. He doesn't have the proven targets we're used to. There's no Hines Ward, Antonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, if you want to go there, more of a complimentary target. But he's got some young guys that are hungry. Chase Claypool, second-round pick. He makes a splash play a week. I think that's what you can expect out of a short camp. Deontay Johnson, I know he got banged up. Very capable player. Juju Smith-Schuster started the season with a couple TDs. The components are there for these quarterbacks. And, you know, Ryan Tannehill even without A.J. Brown, we see Adam Humphries and Corey Davis stepping up. Dude, they're playing good football, man. Khalif Raymond, a guy that the Titans beat reporters were writing about, and I'm like,
yeah,
who? Not in a disrespectful manner, just okay. I guess if his name comes up and he makes plays, I'm gonna give those beat reporters credit for bringing him up, because you never know with guys that you're not familiar with. You never know when beat reporters are being homers, so to speak. But he made a play last week downfield doing his thing, and that's helping Ryan Tannehill. Over in the NFC side, I'll keep this a little bit shorter. We know Russell Wilson's been awesome, man, but you know my questions about Wilson, and it's still with me calling him elite. However, I don't think he's a guy that can sling it across the yard 550 times, 600 pass attempts a season. That's been my thing with Russell Wilson. DK Metcalf is everything I thought he was. He had so many yards out there as a rookie. Understandable. He's finishing those minus that one play against the Cowboys where he gave up 6 because he was probably bored or something. Tyler Lockett, we know he's so underrated, man. And DK actually said that this week. Just beautiful. Those guys are balling out of control right now. We know Russell's been Russell, but he's taken his game to another level. What we wanted to see, what we mentioned in the offseason, it's not just because of Russell. He's definitely the main reason, but it's the wideouts, man. And Green Bay, Devontae Adams, I thought he was going to have a top 3 year in fantasy. I still think he may be in store for that, even though he's missed some snaps. Allen Lazard steps up in his absence. Big game. Unfortunate he gets injured, a core injury. He's going to miss a lot of time. However, through 3 weeks, he's had those 2 guys to lean on at the very least. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, big play in week 1 that I recall. And, yeah, with the Bears, you're right. It's just Allen Robinson there. But, hey, I'm showing love to the wide receivers, man. These quarterbacks, they're playing at a high level. You're absolutely right. But when I look at some other teams like the Eagles, where Carson Wentz only has 1 active receiver that practiced today on the 53-man roster, and everyone wants to crucify him. I mean, look, what if Wentz was in one of those positions? Something like that. Not limited to him, but you look at Matthew Stafford and the Lions. They just won their first game. Kenny Golladay just showed up to the 2020 season. So that's why I'm showing love to the wide receiver position that I normally wouldn't. You think that's too much love for a glamorous position, man?
No, you said it, man. I mean, it's especially this day and age when we talk about a lot of teams that are doing 3 wide receiver sets, 4, sometimes even 5. That 5th guy might be a very active and agile tight end. The 5th guy might be an active and agile running back. But at the same time, we all categorize them now as pass catchers, right? I mean, you're going to be on the field if you're a great pass catcher. So them utilizing that. Let's just call them receivers. Let's just call it receivers flat out, because a lot of times when you get into third and long positions, fourth and long positions, you're going to put your best skill positions out there. You're going to bet your best athletes, and you just got to go. You just got to win. You got to win against man coverage, or you got to know how to sit down in the right zone and have that chemistry with the quarterback. And at the end of the day, you got to catch balls. So you could be there all day long, but I mean, we see some great players drop balls. We see some nobodies, some rookies, some forgotten players make some great plays this year, and that's what I love. This is a very week to week league. This is a very every down league, and it's a very inch by inch league. You said a lot of great things for the receivers on the other teams. I do want to point out, though, only because we're talking about the Bears in the offseason coming into this season, Foles starting, maybe not. Trubisky starting, maybe not. I'm pretty impressed so far because I've watched every Bears game twice. You're welcome, Zach, by the way. But these Bears games, these receivers are making some pretty nasty plays. I'm very, very impressed with Jimmy Graham kind of pulling a comeback. He actually leads the team in touchdowns right now. But Anthony Miller, he's gotten some love in fantasy. He's gotten some love in some games. But, I mean, he's probably made some of the toughest catches I've seen in the NFL so far. And you're talking breakaway speed, in traffic, on the sidelines. Obviously, Allen Robinson is going to do his thing. We've already seen him do it numerous times. But even the rookie, Mooney, a lot of Trubisky's touchdowns, I mean, Mooney only has one of them, but it was a scramble touchdown that Trubisky had. Mooney beating double coverage, and it was shade under and over the top too. So he's getting open a lot. We've seen Cordarrelle Patterson used in sweep plays and jet sweeping in the passing game. So I think the Chicago offense is yet to be unleashed. We've seen them even use David Montgomery as a pass catcher. And unfortunately, Tariq might be gone for the year, but I think they have enough on their plate to put enough skill positions out there and enough athletes that Foles might have some of his best receiving core that we've ever seen.
Wow, I like it, man. I like it. I had a feeling you were going to go there. I dig it. So to Chicago, and a little sneak peek at week 4 pick that I have is the Bears beating the Colts. So there you go.
Okay.
Next question for you, my man. 4 quarterbacks have thrown for 50 or more first downs so far in this young season. In order, it goes Dak Prescott, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Matt Ryan. Will the Bengals rookie Joe Burrow finish in the top 5?
I think just based off usage alone, he has to. Since the first game that he started, especially with that final drive that a lot of that we've talked about plenty of times, and I hope got a lot of chatter after week 1 on any of these networks or blogs. But after seeing that, and then even in week 2 and in week 3, they are giving Joe Burrow the offense. And it's not like they don't have a capable running back. Joe Mixon, in my opinion, is one of the best running backs in the league. Very underrated, very shifty. He can power run, and he never, I'll say almost never, because he actually had a fumble loss against the Chargers and another one I think last week. But he's not some mediocre running back. I think he's one of the premier running backs. But Joe Burrow is obviously commanding this offense. He's obviously won over the locker room and the coaches. They're giving the offense to him. You see him a lot in attempts in 4 and 5 wide sets, especially on 3rd and 4th downs. And they're not afraid to go for it on 4th down. Usually you see a lot of teams protect the rookie quarterback. This kind of goes both ways. They're not protecting him with the playbook. They're giving him everything, but they're also not protecting him in the pocket. This guy is getting hit a lot, and you'd like to see less of that. He's not the biggest guy in the field, but I think just watching this guy play with heart and the fact that he has won over this locker room, and to hear nothing but good things and positive comments from his teammates and from the coaches after games, I think this team will just play better because of that, just because they want to win for this guy. Even Tyler Boyd talked about he hates seeing when Joe Burrow gets hit. He hates when the protection drops, or he feels like he could have gotten open sooner, and he just feels bad every time Joe Burrow gets hit. And that's from a receiver. He almost has nothing to do with that protection, but that just shows what kind of leader Joe Burrow has become just coming into this locker room, and I think that says a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he makes it in the top 4 or 5.
Good stuff, man. I think Joe Mixon, I also believe he's a good running back. I checked out his last year's stats while you're going in detail. He looks like a second half of the season type of player. He first half of the year in 2019, not one game over 100 yards. Second half of last season, 4 games over 100 yards. Just became a monster. We were seeing things like 6.3 yards per carry, 6.2, 5.7. So just ridiculous to your Joe Mixon point. That Joe backfield looks pretty promising there once they get that line right, man. Uh, so I did do some homework on this stat. I didn't know this off the top of my head. I won't even front there. So Joe Burrow being the only rookie here on this list in the top 5 for 50 first downs or more. I had to look back all the way to 1998 to find the last rookie to finish that high, to finish number 1. I was just curious. Who finished in the top 5? I wasn't so strict on number 1. I wanted to go there, but I wasn't finding anybody. So expanded it out. Expanded it out to top 5 back to 1998. The one and only rookie, Peyton Manning. He did it in his first 13 seasons before injury in 2011, where he missed the year. 2012, Peyton comes back. He finishes 6th, and then the final 2 years of his career in the top 5 again. So what a career we know that Peyton Manning had. But from day one, even when he came back from serious neck injury, he was asked to be the catalyst to move the chains since day one, man. So we shall see if Burrow can finish top 5 in passing first downs as a rookie. I even went looking for someone else to do it in their sophomore season. Had to go back to 1998 yet again. There were 3 other QBs to accomplish this in their sophomore year. That's Kurt Warner, Mark Bulger. They both did it for the Rams, your Rams. And then Carson Palmer did it with Burrow's team, the Bengals. So there may be something to the Rams and Bengals playing young quarterbacks and just letting them sling it, man. I if I could bet on this, I'd bet Joe Burrow is a lock to finish top 5 in passing first downs this year. What do you think of those numbers?
Yeah, I agree. It just all to me it just all comes down to one idea. If I mean whether you look at the stat sheet, the box score, or you're just watching the games, you can tell. It's the coaches have an undeniable belief in this guy. I think he's earned it. I think he showed a lot in college, and don't forget he was not that high of a recruit coming out of college. He was waiting behind at Ohio State and didn't get the playing time. He was beat out by Haskins and Fields, and then he comes over to LSU, earns it, but he's playing in big time games, and in a lot of those big time games, he's had big time performances too. So it's not like he's new to this. He's used to it. I mean, LSU, that's an NFL stadium. Alabama, that's an NFL stadium. A lot of that competitions, those are NFL stadiums, sometimes even bigger. So for that crowd and the pressure of the boosters and fighting for a national championship with, and he knows on that roster as well, the coaches, that he's surrounded by NFL players on the offense and defense. He showed out. You know, that's not an easy thing to do in the SEC. That's the best competition in college football. So he comes into the NFL and looks like he's not skipping a beat. And I think he believes in himself, which is the biggest thing. Even if he throws a pick or has a bad 3-and-out, even if he goes 2 or 3 consecutive drives 3-and-out, he just comes back and he's confident in his throws. I don't really ever see him shaken or doubting himself, and that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that is huge, man. I just hope that O-line doesn't deter his rookie campaign. It's been pretty fun so far, but he got smacked around by the Eagles in that tie. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, man, he got destroyed.
Yeah, he really did. All right, man. Next up.
All right, so early before the season started, we went through full predictions on the 2020 schedule. At the end of the schedule, on your sheet, you have Buffalo at Kansas City for the AFC title game, and then you have Philly at Tampa Bay for the NFC title game. At this point in the season, obviously with projections still for the next few seasons or for the next few weeks, at least we have a good few games to kind of test how confident we feel on those title games. How do you feel about those four teams right now in those title games?
Excellent question. Feeling pretty good about three of them. I think Tampa Bay is clearly on the right trajectory to arguably be the NFC's best team, like I thought they would be at the number one seed. I think they're on that path. That defense is really good. They were good last year, but they needed a bump in the secondary. They're playing all around ball right now, and that's before they really get things clicking offensively. You might see some choppiness here and there, to be expected with most teams that don't have that camaraderie like the Chiefs do, perhaps the Ravens, some of the other teams that have their core players from last year. Tampa Bay, I think they're a little ahead of the curve on getting to gel together. We haven't even seen a healthy Mike Evans with a healthy Chris Godwin for a full game yet. We won't see that for a little bit. Eventually it's going to happen, and they're going to be clicking after probably 6 quarters together. I don't expect them to need that much time. And that's without much of a contribution from Leonard Fournette, who was, I believe, 7th in all-purpose yards last season for the Jaguars. It's tough to do behind what O-line? You know what I mean? So, and then Gardner Minshew came out of nowhere after Nick Foles got injured and all that. So Fournette deserves a lot more credit than the fantasy community at least want to give him. So feeling pretty good about the Bucs pick. Well, look at the AFC. I'm feeling good about both Kansas City, Buffalo. I was going back and forth for a long time on who I thought would represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I was surprised how much Buffalo, they had a lot of weight in that equation for me, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say I expected Josh Allen to be an MVP candidate. I won't go that far. I expected improvement. I expected him to still be the catalyst because he's a dual threat, arguably the best dual threat in the league when you really think about it. I mean, we love how Russ, his mobility, he runs, but you see the yards Josh Allen racks up on the ground, man. It's just different. It may not have been as much as Lamar, but we see he looks a lot better than Lamar Jackson as a passer. I don't think that's close. Not trying to discredit last year's
Yes.
MVP. So feeling good about those three teams. And the fourth team you mentioned that I had in the NFC title game going against the Buccaneers, which was your first seed, my second seed, Philadelphia. I don't think any of us are pressing the panic button yet on the Eagles. This is who they've been. 2017 aside, this is who they've been in 2018 and 2019. A team that digs themselves a hole. Do I think any team in the league can keep doing that on a yearly basis? Hell no. This year's such an uphill battle. Their next month of games is going to be a challenge to see if they can even pick up a victory, let alone get back into the hunt. However, that NFC East, they're not sitting too pretty. One win for Dallas, one win for Washington, and that's it. And both can lose this week too. So Philly's far from done. You know how it goes at the end of the year. If a team gets hot, and Philly's been that team to get hot the past couple of seasons. So, today I'm not feeling great about the Eagles making the NFC title game. But when I look at the marathon that the season is, I'm not really sweating it, to be honest. But, yeah, that's easily the 1 out of 4 that I'd say if I had a regret through 3 weeks, I guess it would be that. I just don't see it that way with tunnel vision of 3 weeks of football. Plenty of football ahead, man. How about you?
Yeah, as far as yours, I couldn't feel better about Buffalo. Couldn't feel better about Kansas City. Same thing with Tampa Bay. This defense is already showing that they're a playoff capable defense, and their corners are super young too. I trust Todd Bowles to get this team as far as the secondary up to par and showing up Thanksgiving and post Thanksgiving. The cool thing is they're not an East Coast team, so I mean if they're going to be playing a lot of home games, they get that home court advantage, home field advantage. That's pretty nice for Tom Brady. We know exactly what his record is if he gets home field. So I mean, we kind of expected them to be in the hunt with New Orleans, and New Orleans is taking the wrong trend right now. Obviously, missing out on Michael Thomas, but I mean, every team at some point in the season is going to lose one of their better performers. So just because one guy's sitting out doesn't mean you're going to be losing games. Now, they haven't been blown out. They're in every game, and that's a testament to Sean Payton and their multiple weapons. But I think the trend for them at at best is at par or dropping. And the trend for Buccaneers are definitely on the uptick. So I think it gets better as the season goes. We don't know if the Saints can match that. I mean, I think we've seen a lot of the highest potential from the Saints, and they had a lot of opportunities over the last couple of years. Definitely some heartbreak losses in the playoffs, but I mean, you got to follow the trend. It's all about who's getting hot right now and who's going to be hotter in the playoff run. And I think it's going to be the Buccaneers. So I like that pick. And yeah, man, you said it with Philly. It's not time to panic. There's a reason why they paid Carson Wentz big bucks. They're a half game out of first place with that tie. So say what you want about that tie. It was the right move. They're not a full game back from first. They're a half game. And I mean, this could be all different from the Boo Birds if they get a win this week. As far as my picks, though, I had KC at Baltimore. Yeah, I know that's kind of a cop out. But man, the margin from KC to Baltimore after that one game is pretty wide. I think if they do play each other, it won't be such a blowout, but I still think Kansas City has an obvious edge. I had Seattle at Philadelphia for the NFC title game. I feel pretty good about Seattle's offense. They got to fix something on defense, though. They have no pressure on the quarterback, and they're just giving up way too many points. Obviously, they're scoring a lot in the first half, which is the recipe for Russell Wilson to win. He's undefeated if he has a lead in the first half. But you're going to face a team out there that's going to slow down your offense. You just will. It's impossible to keep hot like that in this league forever, especially this early, holding that to a playoff run. You're going to get scored on, and if your defense doesn't do something, I mean, you can't bet on turnovers. Usually that evens out for the rest of the year. You can't bank on having +2 or +3 turnovers every game, especially in the playoffs. The teams that make it in the playoffs are always a green plus favorite on the turnover battle anyway. So they're going to have to figure out something on the defensive side for me to feel comfortable about Seattle being in the NFC title game.
I get it. I get it. I get it. And we've seen the Seahawks kind of follow the Saints trend of not finishing in the postseason. So I hear you there. Man, if you have any New Orleans stock, if it was like the stock market, I'd sell. Like what I'm seeing at all from New Orleans. I gave receivers some love. Michael Thomas probably deserves the most love, and he hasn't played in a couple weeks. That's crazy how integral he is to that team, how important he is. The Saints look like Michael Thomas or bust. The Ravens can totally roll, man. You have the Ravens up there. They can totally roll. There's been one team to stop them the last 2 regular seasons. That's been the Chiefs. And, I know the Browns split with them, but it looks like the Ravens have a handle on that. That's a pick you probably should feel good about if you put the Ravens up there. And then one last thing on the Bucks, they have a couple castaways, man. That's what I like about them. Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett was a late bloomer. I love that. Always looking for that. So there's a ton of young guys there, yes, in Tampa. I think they got the right mesh, though. I like your point on Todd Bowles. And moving on, got another question for you. Here's a stat, a little history, and then the question. Nick Chubb already has 5 runs of 20-plus yards, which leads the league. Chubb in his first 2 seasons ran for 11 big plays, which tied for first last season and tied for second during his rookie year. His teammate, Kareem Hunt, has 2 so far, which is tied for third. Back in 2017 as a rookie, he tied for a league-high 12 big runs. I just wanted to shed light on the Browns because they're doing their thing right there. But here we go. Currently second on the list, young season, I know, Adrian Peterson with 3 runs over 20 yards at the moment. 2015 was the last time he finished in the top 5 of 20-plus yard runs, which I consider big play runs. He had 11, which is what we just talked about Chubb and Hunt a couple years ago. In AP's 2012 MVP campaign, he had an outrageous 27 big play runs. He also hit the milestone in 2008 where he hit 20. That's just phenomenal to me, man. My question is, based on history here, with 20-plus yard runs being considered big play runs, who is the only other running back to rush for 20 or more big plays in a season over the past 30 years?
Oh my gosh. I'm just going to go based off of memory and highlights here. Is it Chris Johnson?
I am so proud of you right now. The only other back that ran for 20 big plays in a season over the past 30 years, 2009 offensive player
Wow.
CJ2K ran for 22 of those, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just went straight to, I mean, if you think about 20-yard runs, that almost never happens. And I mean, all of Chris Johnson's runs, I mean, if he beats you on that first cut, he is gone. So I was like, hey, man, it's got to be someone that has just destroyed the highlights. He was the first one that I could think of.
That was fantastic. I'm not bummed. I'm just really happy right now. Wow. I try to throw a wrinkle because I really did look past 30 years, and it was only CJ2K.
Wow.
And the reason I went that far back was to kind of make you second guess yourself with LaDainian Tomlinson, Bill Falk, Barry Sanders. You know what I mean? So I was trying to throw a little nugget in the back of your head to doubt your first guess at least. Wow. That's just how
I am the almanac.
you are the almanac. That's just how unbelievable Adrian Peterson has been. And that's how fantastic CJ2K was once upon a time. Wow. You're up.
Cool. Big runs, man. I love watching running backs in their big runs. Some of the best highlights, because you know that's at least 4 or 5 different cuts or missed tackles that they're doing. So that was a cool one right there. What I have is storylines. Obviously, what we love, clickbait or not, front page ESPN, any football website, any sports website, we love storylines. That's usually what drives a lot of Americans, or even around the world, to tune in, because they want to see Hall of Fame quarterbacks against each other. They want to see this player, undrafted rookie, coming in and taking the league by storm. Whatever it is, we just love the storylines. So over the next few weeks, whether you think it's going to be some kind of quarterback change, emerging star player, or a popular opinion that flips and goes the other way, what would you foresee happening in the next few weeks that could be a big storyline?
Holy cow. Talk about a loaded question. Wow. I love this question. I'm kind of searching right now. That caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie. Well, man, I mean, One that I could see is that the Saints are not marching in. I mean, it's a Super Bowl favorite, right? New Orleans. Michael Thomas is coming back, right? Maybe not this week, but they're thinking the following week. I had the Lions beating the Saints this week. And then they go play the Chargers, Drew Brees' old team. I know it's a night game. It's prime time. I'm not so sure the Saints should win that game. I'm not really sure. Michael Thomas would be returning from a high ankle sprain. Marshawn Lattimore has a hamstring injury, just popped up on the injury report. I mean, they're 1-2 right now. If they lose to Detroit, that's 1-3. If they get upset by the Chargers, that's 1-4. That's panic button, and I can see the Bucks going 4-1. So, I mean, we're going to hear questions about Drew Brees more than we do now because he gets a pass. Sean Payton gets a pass too. These guys weren't playoff teams every year. They've had their moments where they make the playoffs 3 years, miss it for 2 years, go 8-8 a couple seasons. Maybe we'll hear some Jameis Winston whispers in New Orleans. I mean,
Ooh.
I like separating certain things such as sports and politics. However, something came up in the offseason with Drew Brees. I don't know how much that's penetrated the locker room or not. I'm not going to pretend like it's something. I'm not going to pretend like it's nothing. But if they go 1-4, that's something entirely different. But though that's all in the same equation of making a decision. Do I think Sean Payton has that type of balls? Hell no. I do not. But you're talking about a big storyline, whether it's for clicks or comes to reality. I'm not Mr. Hot Take guy. I'm just Mr. This is what I see, and it's a possibility. I think the Saints would have to go 6 straight losses, to be honest with you, before they ever thought about benching Drew Brees. I mean,
Yeah.
but they do have a guy that just led the league in passing yards last year. I know he was Mr. 30 for 30. I get it. I'm not the biggest Jameis Winston guy. But if New Orleans feels like they have the personnel to spread the field more than they're able to with Drew Brees, and they're losing, and maybe some guys don't see him the same way, I don't know. That's one thing I can see off the top of my head, man. I mean, would you like to chime in on that New Orleans situation, or would you like to just throw a blanket on it and be like, nah, that's nothing, dude, you're crazy?
No, that's very real. I know there's been a lot of chatter about, can Drew Brees last the season? Does he look the same towards the end of the season and early in the playoffs? And I mean, you talk about this league taking a toll on you mentally. I heard a lot too about the Saints having to kind of convince Drew Brees to come back. So is he all bought in? Are his comments in the past kind of hovering a shadow over his leadership right now? Are people questioning? I mean, the most talked about player in the NFL is always the backup quarterback. So they have supposedly 2 backup quarterbacks. I really don't think Taysom Hill is a serious contender for that role, but they do have Jameis Winston. Who knows? I mean, they should have enough weapons on the offense if MT comes back. I mean, that's obviously a pretty secure target for Jameis. I don't think he'll throw nearly as many picks because they'll probably run a lot of Latavius and Kamara. Obviously, those checkdowns are going to be high possession throws, but I don't 100% disagree with that. That's definitely a scenario that we could see. I mean, I thought they would be a lot better of a defensive team also. So they're not really showing typical New Orleans Saints football, and the division is way tougher. I know Carolina just got their first win, but I mean, they can score points. They're a tough out, and this coaching staff is brand new coaching staff with a brand new quarterback. I think they're doing pretty well for what their competition has been. So even with the emergence of that team, who knows? We know it's not really a home field advantage anymore for New Orleans. So I don't really know. I kind of had a few. I mean, not really heavy takes or heavy storylines on a lot of these, but I would love to see Tua come in and do the same thing to the Patriots and push them out of the playoffs. I think he's the juice for this offense. I just hope that he's healthy. If it were up to me, I think I would just have him sit for the whole season. I just don't know if Fitzpatrick will last the whole season because of his age and injury, so susceptible to injury, or just his prone ability for interceptions late in games. I think eventually Tua probably gets the nod to get him some reps. Who knows? But I think he makes a splash. If not him, I think the Chargers have a viable enough roster to carry Herbert, and Herbert's showing, just like Burrow, Herbert's showing that he can command an offense too, and he's not afraid of the big moment. I think his arm is very, very underrated. That ball's coming out super quick. I think he has a lot of arm angles too, and he's a big, big, tough athlete. He's definitely showed that in the past 2 games. I think this offense has a lot of juice with Herbert over Tyrod. I know Tyrod hasn't really gotten a shot, but when you see your first round pick perform like that on the field, I mean, sometimes you just gotta roll with it. I mean, you made that investment, might as well go for it. So those are two of the ones that I was looking at. Nothing really too heavy on other teams. Did you have any other points or any other teams that might have creeped up?
I do, man. I think I have one that's – I'm not going to say that Saints one with Drew Brees is radical. I think it's possible. Sometimes you just see a guy at the end. I'm not rooting for that, but sometimes you do. But I'll say this one is a little bit more realistic. Someone that could be worried about his job. I mean, we've seen Dak Prescott come in and Tony Romo sits, retires, rises to the sunset, and golfs for a living now. While calling football games, we see it. We see it happen. Nick Mullins, he had a chance to play a couple years ago when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. Let's not even count the Patriots era for Jimmy G. This is the third time he's been injured in a 49ers uniform. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He looked like a liability in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter. I get it. Things were rolling. Everyone loves the Niners. Perhaps some people living in the glory days of the 90s. I get it. I was that kid. I remember the Niners were awesome to watch. They were one of the teams that kept reeling me in to watch other teams that just wasn't my favorite. I get it. When you reminisce, it's fun. It was cool to see the Niners on the big stage. Kyle Shanahan's been one of my favorite coaches. You know that. You agree as well. Look, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy G's been injured again. I know it's just a high ankle. It's not something that you can classify as being injury prone. I understand that. But Nick Mullins gets an opportunity, and it was the Giants. He threw over 300 yards, got the job done in a blowout win where you and I both questioned, you may have bet on the Niners, but we questioned if it was really a lock or if it would even be a double-digit win. We had those questions. They were short running back, receiver, tight end, Richard Sherman on the defensive side, no Nick Bosa. So it's more than the quarterback. But Nick Mullins has a chance. And I'm looking at the schedule for the 49ers right now. Most people would bet on the Niners over the Eagles this Sunday night. The following week, they play the Dolphins. They win both of those games. They go to 4-1. Then they have prime time yet again against the rival Rams, your squad. If Nick Mullins is playing that game and they beat the Rams and they go 5-1, and Nick Mullins is a part of those wins instead of them winning in spite of him, we might have another quarterback change, man.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen questions about Jimmy G. That's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, at the end of the day, Shanahan's scheme in most of Jimmy G's highlight games or big performance games, the rushing attack was there too. So just like Just like how people see Sean McVay and Goff's offense, it's the same as Shanahan and whatever quarterback is playing. It's a power run offense, which drives open lanes for the quarterback. So I think Goff's the right quarterback for the system, but I do think he has limitations, just like Jimmy Garoppolo does. Jimmy Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl. Goff's been to a Super Bowl, but they both struggled and were exposed when it really came down to it. So I feel you, man. I think that's definitely an unpopular opinion, but I definitely think that's an opinion that should at least be on the radar because of injury. Third time as a Niner, at the end of the day, I mean, if he's going to be under contract for 2 years, why not? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you could make up something as far as a storyline prolonging this injury, trying to protect Jimmy G in his injury. Let's see what we have. You never know.
And hey, they can move on from him, whether it's next off season for under $3 million or the following off season for $1 million. So I see a possibility. I'm not trying to push a guy out the door. I'm not even trying to come up with some hot take here. You know, that's not me. That's not us. Just looking across the landscape is what you asked me to do. Off the top of my head, that's what I see, my man. All right. Next question for you. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, he reminisced about the season when 9/11 happened. He shared how their team actually had to play 13 weeks in a row. Yet they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, where the Patriots beat the Rams, sorry, Drew, by a field goal. Between Pittsburgh and Tennessee, who now have a week 4 bye due to COVID postponing their game, who do you give a better chance of making a Super Bowl run?
Man, I think I obviously I like what Tannehill's put on the field so far. I do like what he's put on the field. And to be honest, I was looking at something the other day about Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans, which is gaining a lot of my trust. I do think Vrabel's one of the most improved coaches, and I think he's become one of the better coaches in the NFL. But Tannehill, since he started the past 16 games, since they gave him the starting nod, he's already had 6 game-winning drives in those 16 games. And his buddy in the backfield, Derrick Henry, they are 15-0 when Derrick Henry has 100 yards rushing or more. So both of those things are very doable from now until the playoffs, but I think that was the year they would have made a noise either to make it to the Super Bowl or even win one. I think now it's going to be hard to duplicate that. We've seen teams show a certain recipe or show a certain identity and emerge in the playoffs, and we've definitely seen it fall in the playoffs too, or those teams don't even make it. As well as Tannehill has played and as well as Derrick Henry has been running, I think upper echelon teams, elite teams, especially with elite defenses or elite coaches that can game plan and become stronger in the second half, there's something that I'm holding on to that makes me believe that the Titans might not have that same recipe to go through into the playoffs. I still think they make it into the playoffs. I actually have them as the number 1 seed in their division, or the number 1 team out of their division. But I think it's hard for me to say, but I think they're going to be one and done, just because I think they're going to face a stronger elite defense. And I think at that prime moment, it's going to be tough for Tannehill. I think they're going to force him to carry that win. I think Big Ben is kind of emerging, even though his numbers don't say it. I think they're just kind of finding the role. I think he'll find enough weapons out there, and it's going to be carried by defense. We thought the Titans would be just as good of a defense, but they've kind of been prone to some points lately. I think the Steelers keep it close with every single team. I think they find a way to make a team one-sided. They can beat you so many different ways. I mean, they're nasty with their pass rush. You talk about guys like T.J. Watt, obviously one of the better young pass rushers in the league, not just pass rusher. He can play an open field too. On his other side, you got Dupree. And then backing that, who doesn't get enough love, is Cam Hayward. he's one of the highest pass rushing winners as far as percentages in the NFL too. They can plug, they can play, they can defend, they can make turnovers happen. And we know if you give Big Ben a chance, even though he missed all of last year, I think missing that last year has actually done a positive number on him. I think he's taken that as a chip on his shoulder. We've seen him do it his second year and come out of nowhere. I mean, the Steel Curtain, they're prone to make deep runs in the playoffs, and I think if they can make it there, it's going to be hard to score in that defense. And I know it's not all about defense, but if I were to bet on one of those quarterbacks, I'm going to bet Big Ben over Tannehill.
I get it. I was sitting back because I was loving what you had to say. It's not wrong. I like it. I don't even disagree with it. I think both of these teams have a realistic chance, to be honest with you. Not even just saying that. I'm rocking with the Titans, though. I want to see more from the Steelers offensively. They're a little bit of a different team. I fear them going through more lulls than I actually do the Titans offense. You don't know if James Conner is going to be there all year. Can the next guy step up? It's probably going to be running back by committee. I don't know. I have similar questions about both receiving cores, but I think they're both good enough. I do. I know the Titans, as you mentioned, I completely agree. I call them the Steel Curtain every week. We brought that name back because that's what they've been. The Titans, they don't look as buttoned up defensively. They don't. But I do like their pieces. They have an experienced pass rusher in Jadeveon Clowney. They even brought over Vic Beasley. He's in the rotation. They got a few other high picks in the front seven. A seasoned secondary that won't mentally tank. I think that's important. When the going gets tough, you need those guys that can stay in it mentally. They have a secondary that's been there before. Offensively, I love their style. I know who they are. I don't really have questions about their offense. They're efficient. Corey Davis and Adam Humphries, they're better suited as complements. But hey, A.J. Brown supposedly returning next week. Dude went 20.2 yards per catch last season. Probably not something you can maintain, but it's not like he's going to cut that in half. He's still going to be big play A.J. Brown. That's what he does. That's why he was a high pick. And then we mentioned earlier, we've seen a flash from their fourth receiver, Khalif Raymond, down the field, open things up. And, oh, yeah, their entire recipe is predicated around this one last thing. Derrick Henry and the offensive line. Time of possession, freeze the other offense, move the chains, finish with points, aid your defense. All the things we know about that recipe. I know who the Titans are. I think the defense will eventually feed off that offense like they did last season. They knocked out the Ravens. To me, it wasn't by accident. So that's what I got, man. I like your pick. I think both can do it. I do. Not that they're favorites, but I think they both can do it.
Yeah.
Just rocking with the Titans. I know you picked the Steelers. Do you think the Titans can do it? I know you like the Steelers more than the Titans, but do you think they're capable?
Yeah, I definitely think the Titans are more than capable. They're honestly one of my favorite teams. It's just hard for me to see a team win that way again. I know it's very predicated on Derrick Henry. It's kind of like how the Rams set up their offensive scheme. So if that running game doesn't get going, we haven't seen it yet this year, even though if it's taking Derrick Henry 20, 25, sometimes 30 carries to get over 90 yards or 100 yards, there's going to be a team out there where you can't get that same yards per carry. It's going to have to be Tannehill. It's not always going to be Derrick Henry. He's been on a good run, but sometimes you hit a wall. And once that wall is hit, whether it's in the last 2 weeks of the season or the first game of the playoffs, like I said, man, if you're making the playoffs, there was no team that made the playoffs last year that had a negative turnover margin. So are they going to force Tannehill to throw in a box and close out Derrick Henry? I think that's the recipe. I know it's hard to stop Derrick Henry, but they do have some movements on the offensive line. It's not the same. And we're betting on Tannehill to do it for a second year in a row. I mean, beating some of the better teams in their conference last year. That was a hard road, and I mean, I know they have high hopes. It's just I got to see a little more, I guess, from the season for me to rely on that. If Derrick Henry gets shut down, Tannehill's got to show me something.
I get it, man. And you just reminded me they beat the Patriots too, not just the Ravens. You're right. Uh, but hey, 6 TDs, 1 INT through 3 weeks against some of the weaker defenses. We'll see what they're made of. I mean, Tannehill had to come back last week. They got Pittsburgh at some point. It was supposed to be this week. The two teams we're talking about here. The next time they'll play, it's Buffalo. That's a great game. I can't wait to watch that game. So cool. And hey, you brought up Jared Goff, and we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. That could totally be Ryan Tannehill making a Super Bowl appearance. And I actually like Garoppolo, even though I didn't talk too highly of that situation. I like Goff as well. I love me some Tannehill. And I know the Niners, they gotta, you know, they had Jimmy G with those fourth quarter comebacks last year. I get it. So it'll be fun to watch. All righty, man. And I think we're on to the next question here.
Yeah, question 5. This one will be fun. Involves my division and yours. So, looking at the NFC East, right? Everyone in the NFC East has a losing record. You got Washington at 1-2, Dallas is 1-2, Philly 0-2-1, and the Giants are without a win. The crazy thing is, though, from first to last place, there's only a 1.5 game break. On the other side, in the NFC West, my division, everyone has a winning record. Seattle's 3-0, Arizona's 2-1, Rams are 2-1, and San Fran's 2-1. Game break there is only one game, so pretty close either way. How do you think by the end of the year these two divisions will factor out?
Yeah, man. I think we're gonna see a lot of the same as last year, where it's the Eagles and the Cowboys. Not to kind of beat the drum yet again. That's what it's been because those are the two better teams in that division. And yeah, 0-2-1 for Philly. It's very Philly of them. They're digging that hole. Dallas, they're just very Dallas. They get up for these better teams. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. And then, they'll blow out some teams they're supposed to beat, and then they'll kind of choke up a game. Very similar to the Eagles, those two teams. Any given year, they're 9-7. And if the ball bounces their way or one less injury happens to either one of those teams, that's when they get that 10 or 11 win mark. Do I think either hits double digits this year? That's really tough to sell anybody on. The winner's probably going to be 9-7 again. We might even see an 8-8 division winner, which bothers everyone and their mother. It happens. I mean, we've seen the Seahawks go 7-9 one year, and they actually beat the Saints in the playoffs because of beast mode. I believe we've seen – I'd have to fact check this. I believe we've seen the Panthers make it at 7-8-1, winning their division. So we've seen those type of situations play out. Your division, the NFC West, it's much stronger, clearly. The Seahawks, Rams, Niners, they've all made recent postseasons. 2 of those teams made recent Super Bowls. The Cardinals, they're trying to show they're improved. I know you and I both think they're improved. They still got to go out and show it. I think they are defensively, of course, with DeAndre Hopkins. We see the tear Russell Wilson's on. That's probably not going to stop in the month of October. But the brand of football I'm used to seeing from Seattle in the winter is running the ball. We'll see how committed they are to let Russ cook. I'm not really sure because that defense, you air it out with that Seahawk defense, the other team's going to score on them too. They're going to rack up the yardage. So that does worry me if I had to bring up a concern about an undefeated team right now. Do I think the Cardinals hang? I think they fall back a little bit. I think they could be a 7-win team. I do. Maybe even 8 wins. My preseason prediction was 8 wins. And I didn't have anybody lower than 500 in this division. That's how I see this division playing out. Everyone, maybe the Cardinals are on that 7-8 win total. I think everyone's above 8. Everyone else, I think it's tough. I think there's two teams that'll get double-digit wins, with that third team just missing out at probably 9, maybe 10 wins. That'd be crazy if we saw one division have 3 teams with 10 wins. But, they could have 3 teams making the playoffs. Is that how you see it?
I wish, man, because I had the Rams third in the division, but just missing the playoffs at 8-8. I think San Francisco and Seattle are definitely, I mean, up there with getting double-digit wins. I think the Rams have a shot at it. I just think that by the end of the year, we have the tougher schedule out of all 4. Oh man, it's tough to say, but obviously I'm hopeful for the Rams. I don't think they're going to be terrible at least 7 to 8 wins, but there's just something about the lack of consistency down the road, especially us not really having a star running back. This is the first time that we're going to attempt this running back by committee, and the running backs look great right now. But again, just like the Titans, I fear once we start facing those elite defenses down the road, especially those in our division, ones that can score a lot of points, it's tough for us to be a comeback team. We've shown that we could do it. I mean, we almost beat Buffalo. We went up on them, and they came back to win. But it's going to be tough. I think just as a team, San Francisco has got more skill positions that are hard to defend, and I think they're actually showing that they're a little bit deeper than what the NFL thought them to be. Seattle, they have the best quarterback in the division, so they're going to be in the double digits for sure. Even if they're doing terrible defensively, I think they have enough offensive power to outscore anyone in our division or anyone in the league for that matter. So I just have the Rams falling short. I think they're still short some offensive line pieces. If one of those guys go down like last year, we're going to be struggling to contain and be consistent with the run game. And then defensively, we've been pretty solid, but I mean, we were kind of exposed with the holes. We don't really have a nickel corner. We let him up to you guys, Nicole Roby-Coleman. Hopefully you guys like him being on the roster because I think he's a great player. And our secondary is young. I mean, we have 2 young safeties and we have a lot of young linebackers that can't really cover. So it's really going to be up to Jalen Ramsey and Donald. And I think it's just too much of a task to ask against how strong our division rivals are, especially outside the division. We still have to go at Philly and at Tampa Bay later in the year. It's going to be tough.
That is true. It is going to be tough. You are one of the toughest divisions. I think it's going to be tough for the rest of the league to beat your division on any given week. I mean, I don't see your division, those teams, they're not getting blown out by anybody. So they're all going to be competitive games that can go either way, even if they wind up with some L's. I mean, I think most people can see that and agree with that. That's tough, man. It is tough. And I think that was your 5th question, huh?
That was my 5th. Yeah. And for your division, as good as Dallas has looked, scoring points, I don't know if they can sustain that as a winning recipe. There's a lot of teams that can score some points. I think it's just going to be basically off of their turnovers and their consistency to run the ball. Again, we haven't really seen them break the big play or even break the big run with Zeke. I think Philly, just as a whole, top to bottom, just roster, coach, quarterback, I think they just have the edge, and they'll show that later in the year. Giants are struggling right now, but Giants, for being one of the youngest teams, is actually one of the least penalized teams. So I think that's a testament to Joe Judge being a new coach. Maybe he's doing a better job than we think behind the scenes. I think finally once they get all their skill positions in, they won't be as terrible on film and on camera. So I think they'll be viable enough to make tough games, maybe not necessarily equate to wins, but I still have it as Philly, Dallas, and then Washington and Giants just kind of still looking for maybe 1 or 2 more years of draft picks to fill.
All right. I think you and I are in the minority of that, of thinking the Eagles have the edge. Actually, I know we're in the minority of that, especially after 3 weeks. But hey, it is what it is. That's what we see.
I'll take bets right now.
All right, man. Got one for you. Favorite team aside, what are 1 or 2 things you want to see or focus on when you're watching this week 4 slate?
Ooh, nice. Yeah, week 4's got some matchups. Honestly, I'm going back to my first question. I'm kind of interested in seeing which one of these teams get their first win, because even if they have 0 on the win side, we've obviously seen a lot of great things from the Bengals. We've obviously seen a lot of great things from the Vikings and the Texans, as far as them being in games, just not being able to hold on to those leads or hold on to their comeback attempts. I'm more interested on seeing if I'm right with the Vikings, with them struggling. I think I had them at 6 wins. That's why I have them losing this week at the Texans. I really, really want to see Deshaun succeed. I hope he does make the playoffs. I really like him as a quarterback. I'm pretty excited to see this Niners-Eagles game. I know it's not the best. Niners with a lot of backups, Eagles struggling, but I think that's going to be one of the better games. 2 teams showing off their depth and their coaching ability. I think it's going to go down to the wire for that game. And then on the other side, to see which one of these hot teams stay hot. You got all these undefeated teams: Buffalo, Kansas City, Packers. I think they'll all be tested. I know Atlanta's blown some leads, but Aaron Rodgers is pretty unbeatable at home, but I don't think that's going to be a blowout game at all. I think Atlanta's still fighting. I mean, they can't go three weeks in a row. I don't think they'll have the lead here, but I think they'll at least make it a tough game. Who knows how long that coaching staff is going to last. But, yeah, I mean, looking at the rest of the games on the schedule, pretty excited to see Nick Foles get his first start. I think he'll do pretty well. I think he should have been a starter from week 1. But as far as what's coming up, I think I'm more interested in actually some of the teams that haven't won a game yet.
I like it. That is very interesting. We haven't been through a lot of football, so not many teams are out of it unless you're the Jets. So, look, I'll be honest with you. I do have a couple of things as well this weekend. I think there's plenty of barometer games this week to watch. I'm focusing on a couple of them. 2-1 Browns at the 1-2 Cowboys. Who are they after a month of action? If Dallas wins, both would be 500. If Cleveland wins, they go to 3-1 and should be feeling pretty good about themselves heading into the second month. So I kind of want to see the Browns. Do they get up for this game? It's America's team. You have a 2-1 record. You have a chance to go 3-1. You're in it. I have you in the playoffs. Let me see that you want to be there. Don't be the same Browns. Let me see the dog pound. Who let the dogs out? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your chance, Cleveland. I mean, don't wait for Baltimore and Pittsburgh to go on a run. This is your chance to go on a run, and that's what I'm curious to see. On the flip side, over the past few years, this is a game Dallas would win, should win. I'm not calling it a must win, but I'd be worried if they don't pull this one off against the Browns. I know it's a team I think is playoff caliber, but Dallas has been there on the edge of the postseason. In the postseason, they've been building towards something. I know they have some injuries. Who doesn't? They sure do. I get it. But you're talking about Atlanta's firepower. Dallas has something similar with, at this stage in his career, a better running back than Atlanta has. Arguably the best running back in football, depending on how you see things. I mean, he's been durable. He hasn't been like Saquon Barkley. I think Dallas needs to go back to playing Zeke football on the ground, O-line, You have to protect that defense. So it's a barometer game, I think, for both teams. I think it's a very good matchup for where they are currently, and it can give us some type of measurement of how we should view them moving forward. The other game, we touched upon Drew Brees. It's New Orleans and Detroit. Who gets to 500? Who dips to 1-3? Most of us have the Saints in the playoffs, and I know there hasn't been Michael Thomas. Then we talked about Marshawn Lattimore popping up on the injury report. The Lions last week, first win with Kenny Golladay back in the lineup. He's back again. No setback or anything like that. So it's an interesting game to me, especially since I had Detroit in the playoff picture. And if you're listening to that for the first time, you're like, this dude has the Browns and Lions in the playoffs. I'll tell you this much. There's 7 seeds in both conferences now. That makes a difference. So, yeah, man,
Yep.
I'm looking at the Saints and Lions game as another one of those barometer games to see where they're at, even without Michael Thomas. I got to see what the Saints are made of. This should be a win for them if they have those super aspirations. And if you're Detroit, knowing they don't have Michael Thomas, knowing you can probably get the best of Lattimore more times than usual, Detroit should be feeling like this is a game they can win too. So that's why I call these my barometer games of the week. And do you want to chime in on those?
Yeah, man, I definitely like the Browns Cowboys. I think it'll go the other way. I think it'll be Cowboys winning at home. Just a cleaner game from the Cowboys. I know they have got a lot of offensive power. I think it'll be a struggle for the Browns to score as many points as the Cowboys. So I do like the Cowboys in that game. Bears and Colts will be interesting. I know you have Bears winning that game. I do think I have the Bears edging. They just have a little bit more balance on offense. I know the Colts are trying to pound and keep Phillip Rivers' turnovers to a minimum. I think eventually the Bears put up some points. We've seen them put up points the first 3 weeks, even with Trubisky. So I think the Bears they might take that one by more than a touchdown, to be honest, is what I'm thinking, since it's a home game too. Looking down the list, Saints and Lions, that is a great matchup. Lions are at home. Fast turf. They have a lot more weapons right now, or at least more utilized weapons than what Drew Brees has shown. Seahawks, Dolphins, that's an easy choice for me. I'm kind of intrigued to see how Herbert does on the road against Tom Brady and the Bucks. They probably won't be able to run on him, but I mean, back-to-back, we've seen Herbert produce through the air. So if he pulls something off, that'll be pretty impressive from the rookie. Ravens going against a fresh, tough front seven. If they're not going to have that run game, I mean, Lamar, every time he's been behind in 6 games in his whole career. All those 6 games turned into losses. So if Washington can somehow score first at home, that could be a problem for Lamar losing to Washington. But this is actually these are a lot of pretty cool matchups here. Obviously, Patriots and Chiefs. I think the Patriots have the right recipe. Play keep away from Mahomes. It's pretty hard to defend Cam Newton. I wouldn't say the Chiefs secondary is amazing. I wouldn't say their ability to stop the run is amazing. So I think the Patriots have a chance to definitely put up some points. I mean, 2 of the best coaches, they'll have great game plans, and they'll probably force either Kelsey or Tyreek out of this game. So it's going to be interesting on who steps up for the Chiefs. I don't really think Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be a factor as a runner, maybe as a pass catcher. And then, I mean, these are some telling games already right here. Bills, Raiders. We already talked about Eagles, Niners. Steelers, Titans, that's postponed, but I don't know. I think even the Falcons have a shot at least making a close game. I'd like to see a nice, interesting game on a prime time. We know sometimes those primetime games kind of fall short and end up being a blowout. So I hope that one is not. But I think the NFL just really did a good job with the scheduling. I think they kind of prepared for some of these games to be struck with this pandemic that we're dealing with. I think a lot of the matchups, especially the division rivals early in the first 2 weeks, kind of set the tone for a lot of the storylines that we're talking about right now. I'm pretty excited, man. I mean, obviously NFL every week is interesting, but I think it just keeps getting better and better.
Of course it does. It's the best league there is. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. All right, man. I know I'm bringing this up right now, we're actually going to answer some diehard questions. We have 3 questions from some of the diehards.
Nice.
One, I know your answer, but it's not about, to me, it's not always about the answer. It's about the equation of your math problem. So from Zach, Bears fan, you shouted him out earlier. With Nick Foles taking over as the starting QB in Chicago, do the Bears have a better chance at making the playoffs?
100%. Definitely. I mean, for me, when we went over those predictions for the predictions for the season, I predicted them as if Foles was going to be the starter. So that's one thing. He wasn't, but luckily they won the first 3 games. So my prediction of 10-6 for the Bears still stands. I had them as the 4th seed, so winning their division. I think Green Bay obviously has come out with some amazing football, honestly. Their offensive line has been known as a pass blocking O-line, but they've been showing some success in the run game. Though I haven't really seen them against an elite team or an elite defense. I still like to see that moving forward. So I do have some questions because out of everything that we've seen in off seasons or in second halves, the cool thing that I like that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is Green Bay was always a great first half team with the script. Matt LaFleur, I think he's a decent enough play caller. This year, they're a great second half team. So they're showing that Matt LaFleur has got some adjustments up his sleeve. But at the end of the day, man, there's still teams like the Niners. There's still teams like the Seahawks. There's still teams like the Titans. I mean, anybody that can at least slow your offense down. Again, Aaron Jones has been showing he's one of the best running backs in the league. But what happens when you don't have Aaron Jones to rely on? Especially now with the injuries to his top 2 receivers, as it seems. I mean, I thought MVS would be his second receiver, but looks like Lazard has a better chemistry. We're going to have to see these teams continue to beat man coverage because they're going to pressure Aaron Rodgers. It worked last year. Maybe that's the recipe that it's going to take down the Packers, but I still want to see that happen. I still they didn't really add any extra skill positions. Maybe they threw out Aaron Jones a little bit more on routes, but for how multiple I've seen the Bears and their receivers, I'm very impressed. I think Anthony Miller is one of the underrated receivers in this league. He can obviously make tough catches. If you want to watch the highlights, even if it's not the full game, if you want to watch the NFL short highlights that are only 12 to 15 minutes, it's Anthony Miller as a receiver that's making a lot of those highlight plays. Allen Robinson's doing his thing, but to me, Anthony Miller is popping off the screen. I think David Montgomery is improving again as a runner. I think Foles is the right guy, and I think their defense is going to get better and better as the weeks go on. I really, really do like the Bears, especially if they get home field advantage in the winter. It's tough to play in Chicago, man. I think they have a good edge there.
What a fantastic way to end that question. That actually leads into the next one, but I kind of want to give my take first before we hit that next one. Look, man, I was the biggest Nick Foles fan before anyone saw him start an NFL game. I wanted him to start over Michael Vick in Philly. That's my squad. So I had, of course, the insight on that. But, dude, I got to be honest. Yes, I think Nick Foles gives them a better chance to make the playoffs and win games. There's an asterisk, though, because this is the best relief quarterback, the only relief quarterback that's ever played in the NFL. I mean, I'm not opposed to a 2-quarterback offense where Mitch plays every first half, Nick Foles plays every second half, because then I think I might get the best out of both, to be honest. But I say that because Nick Foles has only started double-digit games twice in 9 years. The last time he started double-digit games was 11 in 2015 for the Rams. Before that, 13 games, his season high in 2013 for Philly. Awesome, his career year. He's only done that twice. And then I was kind of peeking, as you were talking, at some Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles comparisons. And when I look at completion percentages, 63% Mitch Trubisky, just a shade under 62 for Nick Foles. So are we going to see the same percentage? It sounds like we are, man. And then you go over to quarterback rating. Mitch Trubisky, 85.9. Nick Foles, 88.3. That's comparable. Go over to yards per attempt. Mitch Trubisky, 6.7. Nick Foles, 7. I'm not seeing a lot of separation. Let's go yards per game. 204 for Nick Foles, 207 for Mitch Trubisky, plus 21 that he gets on the ground. I don't know, man. I mean, if you're basing things off the history of Nick Foles, of injuries and statistics, I'm not quite sure we've seen the last of Mitch Trubisky in 2020.
Yes, you can look at the stats. This is honestly for these two quarterbacks. I look past the stats. I think Matt Nagy is one of the most underrated play callers there is and play designers. Obviously, he kind of learned from Andy Reid. I think that's a big reason why Trubisky at times looked like he was a franchise quarterback. On the other side, I think Nick Foles is just so much more accurate when it comes down to him third downs or fourth downs. I just think he just has the experience, but B, I mean, we've seen him do it. Like you just said, I mean, his whole persona is put me in, coach. I can do better than that guy. I'll make you proud. I'm going to earn that salary as the backup quarterback. Let's make it happen. And he's done it. And I'm not saying this is going to continue year after year after year. He's not the youngest quarterback. But in this scenario, for him being matched with Matt Nagy and the playmakers I think they have that are underrated on this offense, I just think Nick Foles over Trubisky won't put the team in those situations, for turnovers, bad field position, or just not doing well in 2-minute drives. Trubisky had some great throws, but every quarterback in this league that's starting should have great throws like him every so often. You can just rely on Mitch Trubisky making that 1, 2, or third throw that's going to just make you just do, oh my God, like, why did you throw that? Why did you do that? Why did you try and scramble? How could you lose a 24-yard sack on fourth down when you're in field goal position? Those are the Trubisky plays that I'm talking about. I think he's a decent enough passer. I just don't think it's as consistent. And Tariq Cohen, in both of those 2 years, always finished as a top 20 fantasy back. He got a lot of catches, a lot of yak. That helped Trubisky's numbers a lot too. And at the same time, obviously, Mr. Allen Robinson is one of the best traffic catchers in the league. I just think the edge will go to Foles. I think Matt Nagy will have a bigger portion of his playbook to open up. And I think it's just smooth sailing from there.
That's cool, man. I mean, we agree. To answer your question, Zach, we both think Nick Foles gives the Bears a better chance. I question Nick Foles' durability, and I am looking at the stats because he only had 4% higher completion rate in Kansas City with Andy Reid at Matt Nagy. So, but that is improvement. That was only in 3 games. I get it. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Drew. We have the same answer. I'm just looking down the road, and I kind of think we're going to see Trubisky start again. We might even see the flip-flop of what we've seen before from Nick Foles with him bowing out, possibly to an injury. I don't know. I'm not wishing that upon him. With Trubisky finishing the campaign, I think that's a realistic possibility. If there was a prop bet, I'd probably smash that button. Yeah, I see it. I see the same way. So, yeah, there you go, Zach. We think the Bears are playoff bound. Drew had that predicted. I mean, I won't say we. I'm not quite sold yet. I have to see some more Chicago football. But, Drew, you did allude to this by saying winter football in Chicago would be very challenging if they got home field advantage or a home game. We had a question from Paul, another one of our diehards. He actually joins the show from time to time. What will home field advantage be worth in the playoffs without fans?
Yeah, definitely weather. But, I mean, you've seen already some teams start to go through some protocols, testing it with immediate family only. So I think eventually, obviously, there's a lot of chatter out there. It's going to be winter. It's going to be mixed with the flu season. It's going to come back. There's going to be shutdowns. It's going to be tough for fans to be in the stands. Regardless, it's not just the fans in the stadium, but it's the travel schedule. Where are you traveling from? Where did you stay the previous 2 or 3 nights? How long did you get to practice? And where did you play the previous week? So we talked about the Ravens having one of the easiest flight schedules in the league. That takes a toll. So I think even with or without the fans, I think there's still a good enough advantage. Let's say if you're talking betting lines, maybe it's not a home field advantage like 3 points, maybe it's more of 2 and 2.5. But I think it's still a viable advantage as far as where the teams are coming from. I mean, look, like you're losing time flying from one side of the country to the other. Maybe a day of sleep, your practice schedule's off. Who knows if you're on the road 2-3 times in a row? It's tough, man. I think not as great of an advantage, but you see a lot of these teams. This is a winter league, so it's going to be tough.
True. It is going to be tough. It'd be a bummer, but something understandable if there weren't fans in the stands. I get it. It's a great question, Paul. What would home field advantage be worth? I mean, weather is a good point, but when you're kind of thinking about other things, I'm going to be honest. I know it's not entirely NBA basketball in the bubble. There won't be bubble football. But, in the preseason or in the off season on this show, we were talking about how the 6 seeds win 50% of the time and kind of trying to find where the 7 seed would land in that. I mean, the Steelers would have been the 7 seed. The Rams would have been the 7 seed. Those have been teams that are used to winning games. So with the 6 seeds winning half the time already as it is, we have no fans in the stands, whether or not, I'd expect something like the Denver Nuggets did in playoff bubble. The Phoenix Suns went off even though they missed the playoffs, but something along those lines where, you know what, we might see some more upsets in one playoff tournament than we really see most years. I'm not going to say, both 1 seeds, both 2 seeds are going to bounce one and done, but maybe the 3 seeds and the 4 seeds, maybe they both lose. So that's the angle I'll go with. I can see that, some along those lines. And then our final question to get us out of here from Dill, another one of the diehards that hops on the show occasionally. Will any of the NFL teams currently undefeated at 3-0, will any of them not make the playoffs? If so, why? Those teams, Drew, to reiterate, the Chiefs, Seahawks.
Not going to say the Bears.
Chiefs, Seahawks, Bills, Packers, Titans, Steelers, and Bears.
Oh, man. I would say they all do. I mean, obviously, out of the bunch, to be 100% honest, I think the one that maybe would be most likely not to make it, the team that's not as complete as the others, is the Bears. But I think if I were to take a guess, from him being a veteran, I would actually choose Foles over Josh Allen. I know he's having an MVP year, but at the same time, we haven't seen that as a consistency. That was a huge issue last year. And yes, by the end of the game, they're all wins, and he's throwing over 300 yards, and he's using his legs. But there's a lot of times in those games, because I've been watching the Bills closely. I love Sean McDermott as a coach, and we definitely wanted to see – a lot of people wanted to see this specific thing happen, and they're seeing it happen. But there's still a lot of situations, especially in the Rams game, a lot of the times in the first 2 weeks too, not trying to be joking or not trying to be a smartass about it, but Josh Allen is still trying to give that ball away. Luckily, he hasn't fumbled away and lost him as much as he has last year, but he's still trying. He's still taking terrible sacks. He's still throwing deep into deep late into zone coverage, and he's still running carelessly with the football with his legs, not going down or not going out of bounds. Hopefully he does learn from that, because I do love Josh Allen out of his draft class. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks. But it's not showing consistently that he's gotten over that. So that's more of a quick twitch reaction, where you can try and coach that all you want in practice, but in the moment when he's trying to get that 3rd and 6 using his legs, or 3rd and 6 trying to evade a pass rusher like Aaron Donald, and he gets strip sacks and loses the ball, we don't know if he's going to correct that for the rest of the season or even in the playoffs. So maybe if that turns around and the turnover battle starts to go down lower and lower, it might be all on Josh Allen.
All right. Well, Dill, you got one answer there. If I'm looking at the teams that are 3-0 right now, I did not have the Bears in the playoffs. I did not have the Packers in the playoffs. I'm gonna, for better or worse, stick to my homework in the offseason, because I had the Chiefs and the Seahawks in the playoffs, had the Bills, Titans, and Steelers in the playoffs. So I'm going to stick to my homework for better or worse, like I said, whether you want to call it stubborn or not. I'll say that the Bears have the best chance to miss the playoffs out of all the undefeated teams. And the next team I'll throw on that list is the Packers. And if I had to throw an AFC team in there, I like the Titans more than I like the Steelers, so I'm going to say the Steelers. So that's how I'll put it. Do I think any of them really missed the playoffs? Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears. Oh. Yep. So there you have it. I think it's a possibility for the Packers and Steelers. I think the Bears won't make it. And then Drew says, watch out for Josh Allen and the Bills, guys. Woo, some heat. Some heat. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for an entertaining, question-filled, jam-packed episode. Drew, what do you want to tell the diehards as we head into week 4?
Throw the questions, man. We love answering questions. It gives us an opportunity to communicate with you guys and think a different way. Obviously, we love to be objective. We like to hear what you guys are thinking. I mean, everyone sees these games differently. Everyone watches different games. You can't watch them all unless you're rewatching games if you have Sunday Ticket or NFL Game Pass. But maybe there's something that you completely disagree with. Obviously, we're looking through things, how we see the game. Obviously, digging deep, and we're trying to back everything that we've predicted for the season. But we're always open to say we're wrong if we're wrong, and definitely we'll be loud if we're right. So anything you have to say for us, we love that you tune in, and we love that you have questions for us as well. But this is fun, man. We hope you guys are tuning in every single week and keeping us on our toes.
Hell yeah, what Drew said. And we'll see you on our week 4 previews. Holla at your boys, Die Hard.